Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shimate Divamrit Swami Tunamine Pacharpur Prakshancha Bhakti Charvinata Parartatapi Karanyam Yasasari Chtenama Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tunamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 10. What is the text number? Hold on. 20. Chapter 10, text number 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Savai Bhavaloka Nirikshanartam Avyaktalingo Vicharatyapi Svit Yogeshvaranam Gatim Andabudhi Katam Vichakshita Grihanubandha. Savai Bhavaloka Nirikshanartam Avyaktalingo Vicharatyapi Svit Yogeshvaranam Gatim Andabudhi Katam Vichakshita Grihanubandha. Savai Bhavaloka Nirikshanartam Avyaktalingo Vicharatyapi Svit Yogeshvaranam Gatim Andabudhi Katam Vichakshita Grihanubandha. Word for word translation says, Saha, that Supreme Personality of Godhead or his incarnation Kapiladev. Vai, indeed, Bhavan, your good self. Loka Nirikshana Artam, just to study the characteristics of people of this world. Avyakta lingaha, without manifesting your real identity. Vicharati, are traveling in this world. Api svit, whether, yoga ishvaranam, of all the advanced yogis. Gatim, the characteristics or actual behavior. Andabudhi, who are illusioned and have become blind, spiritual knowledge. Katam, how? Vichakshita, may know. Griha anubandha, I who am bound by attachment to family life or worldly life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. It is not, this is Maharaj Rahugana continuing his glorification and his recognition and appreciation of Jat Bharat. He says, it is not a fact that your good self is the direct representative. Oh, I'm sorry. He's posing a question here. Is it not a fact that your good self is the direct representative of Kapiladev, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? To examine people and see who is actually a human being and who is not, you have presented yourself to be a deaf and dumb person. Are you not moving this way upon the surface of the world? I am very attached to family life and worldly activities, and I am blind to spiritual knowledge. Nonetheless, I am now present before you and am seeking enlightenment from you. How can I advance in spiritual life? Good question. Purport. Although Maharaja Rahugana was playing the part of a king, he had been informed by Jat Bharat that he was not a king, nor was Jat Bharat deaf and dumb. Such designations were simply coverings of the spirit soul. Everyone must come to this knowledge, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 13. Everyone knows this verse, right? Dehino asmin yata dehe. Dehino asmin, within the deha, the body, there is the self. Prabhupada says, this is a translation, everyone is encased within the body. Everyone is encased within the body. Since the body is never identical with the soul the bodily activities are simply illusory. In the association of such a sadhu as Jadabharat, Maharaj Rahugana came to the awareness that his activities as a royal authority were simply illusory phenomena. He therefore agreed to receive knowledge from Jadabharat, and that was the beginning of his perfection. Tad vijnanartam sagurum ivabhigachet. A person like Maharaj Rahugana, who was very inquisitive, knows the value of life and the spiritual science, must approach a personality like Jadabharat. Tasmad gurum prapeta jigashu shreya uttamam. One must approach a guru like Jadabharat, a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to inquire about the goal of human life. Nectar. Om Agyana Timarasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Takta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutade Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Maharaj Rahugana is recognizing the spiritual quality of Jadabharat, even though he pretended to be Jada, dumb. Still, Maharaj Rahugana's qualification is that he could see now, this is a real spiritual master, despite what expectation I might have for his external veneer, for his superficial persona. His real quality as a spiritual master is revealed by how he's speaking about the absolute truth, speaking about one's identity as being different from the body, and speaking about love of God. That's how one recognizes the spiritual master, not by the coverings, the encasement on the body. Now, we've all heard that we're not the body. If you haven't heard, then I'm ready to blow your mind. But actually, we're not this body. Dehinasmin yata dehe homaram jovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namohyati. That actually this body is always changing from boyhood to youth to old age, and the soul changes into another body at death/birth, kind of like a conjoined experience. And, if we're really sober, we're not so bewildered by that. But when it comes to the spiritual master, we expect their body to have all sorts of requirements. And hence there's this, not an ISKCON, of course, I should hope, but amongst many people, there's an expectation of the spiritual master as being very much in the bodily concept of life. That we want a spiritual master who is very tall and has a big beard and, and other bodily considerations. We'll have these expectations about what the spirit. Oh, some of you have heard the famous example about how one guru was criticized for having glasses. I don't remember the details. So someone can remind me details, but someone criticized the spiritual master saying, "You are perfect, and why do you have glasses? You have imperfect vision." So it's interesting that although we know, at least theoretically, that we're not the body, the expectation of the spiritual master's body is tends to be unreasonable and unfair. Actually, the bodily situation of the spiritual master has no consideration. This is very important in the context of modern Krishna consciousness, modern parampara, because we are becoming increasingly superficial as Kali Yuga goes on, but also in a more historical context, because there have been many people who claim that being a spiritual master is a hereditary thing. It's only if you're born in a particular class or gotra, family lineage, then you can be spiritual master. Some people who claim to be descendants of Lord Nityananda feel themselves entitled to the role of spiritual master, and others cannot do it. But there are many statements in the Shastra which state the opposite. It's a famous verse, which I should remember. Hold on a second. Which says that even if one has the body of a Shudra, but teaches the science of Krishna. Nope, can't remember. That there are many statements in the Shastra that regardless of one's birth in a particular varna, or even outside of varna, like most of us these days, still, if someone can teach the science of bhakti, God consciousness, then they are fit to be spiritual master. Oh, something nipino vipro mantra tantra visharada. Who knows the verse? Mantra tantra visharada. All right. Bear with me, Prabhupada, I'm going to look it up. Mantra tantra visharada. Visharada. Am I going to find it? Sat karma nipino vipro mantra tantra visharadaha. Avaishnava guru nasyad. Vaishnava shvapacho guru. A scholarly Brahmana expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person born in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna conscious. It's from the Padma Purana. So this is very important because it's like you're not the body is it's not even just Bhakti 101. It's like Yoga 101. Even the impersonalists, consider that fundamental to their understanding of their philosophy. You're not the body. But when it comes to spiritual master, we put a lot more imposition on the requirements. So historically, there's that context that some people think that being a guru is a hereditary thing, that only people born in the descendant of some important person, either descendant of Advaita Acharya or descendant of Lord Nityananda, can claim guruship. But in the modern context, we do the same thing. We do the same thing. Even a little bit of it, I would claim, sneaks into ISKCON, where we judge a spiritual master by their body and not by what's being described later in this verse, what they're saying. Tasmad gunam papadyeta jigashu shreya uttamam shabde parichinishnatam brahmanyupashamashrayam. We'll get to that in a minute. But we judge a guru by their body. Is he really tall? And how many followers does this person have on Instagram, which is now a thing. If you want to have clout, you gotta have who's got the bigger media team so that their face is everywhere online. Like this one self-proclaimed guru who claims to be sadhu. He's got someone's invested a lot of money so that his media is everywhere. And you see his videos all over different things, even though he himself is one of those typical gurus who claims to not need a guru. You don't have a guru. You don't need a guru. Buy my books. So someone's paid a lot of money to put his pretty face all over the place. I won't say who. But, he's got the exact bodily expectation, really stereotypical. And so we judge like that. We judge based on the body. But we should not. Here's an example that Bharat is a sadhu and recognized as a direct representative of Kapiladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though superficially, externally, only a moment ago, he was employed in hard labor, forced hard labor. I mean, that's kind of throws out whatever conceptions we might have of who's qualified to be a guru. If someone who only a few moments ago was conscripted into forced labor, yet he was qualified to give instruction to the great king, Rahugana. And although Rahugana was having a bad day, he's still very qualified in knowledge. So what does that say to the qualification of Jad Bharat? And what does that say to how insignificant is the superficial body of the spiritual master? This is stated more explicitly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, specifically in the pastime. Prabhupada mentions it in the pastime of the king Prataparudra, who, as we all know, was being tormented by Lord Chaitanya by being refused darshan of the Lord. Maharaj Prataparudra was really living the ecstasy of separation. He wanted to have the connection with the Lord, and Lord Chaitanya, in order to increase his ecstasy, continued to refuse to meet him on the pretext that he doesn't meet with kings and worldly men. But of course, we know that actually there's some very deep emotional reciprocation going on. Anyway, as part of Maharaj Prataparudra's desperation to see Lord Chaitanya, he arranged to have his son. I think Lord Chaitanya agreed to meet with Maharaj Prataparudra's son. And he did. The prince of Orissa went to meet with Mahaprabhu. And as was always the case, upon meeting Mahaprabhu, being embraced by him, touching his lotus feet, bowing down to him and accepting the Lord in his heart, this prince, I don't know if his name was mentioned, but the son of Maharaj Prataparudra became ecstatic in love of God. Isn't that always the way? That typical reaction to coming in contact with Krishna's holy name. He became ecstatic in love of God. And he changed overnight. Not even overnight, instantaneously. And he cast aside his royal visage, the jewelry and the ornaments of being a prince. And he gave up the pompous attitude of being a prince. And he became meek and humble and devoted and ecstatic instantaneously. Now, some people were judging this prince. Like, come on, we know him. People in the palace, or people who knew the family, they were judging, like, wait, we know this prince. He is a worldly person, enjoying as princes typically do. And now, suddenly he's supposed to be some sadhu. We're not buying it. And Prabhupada comments in this verse about the criticism that people had of the prince's transformation. He comments in reference to gurus, saying that this is a fallacy called Naga Matrika Nyaya, the logic of your naked mother. When there's been a transformation owing to some sort of remarkable occurrence, and what's more remarkable than coming in contact with the devotee, the guru, and Krishna, that transformation causes total change in a person, and that they cannot be judged. They can no longer be judged based on what they were like previously, because the significance of that event changes everything. Just like your mother, when she was a child, used to run around naked in the house. That's what little kids do. They run around naked because I've got young kids. I tell you, it's just too exhausting to dress them all the time. But now that she's become a mother, that's such a significant change. It's arguably one of the most significant things within this world, is to become a mother and birth a person. That now, you don't expect her to run around naked. Now she's in the top echelons of human society. So you can't judge her based on the past. You respect your mother because she's birthed you, because the significance of that event changes everything. So you don't judge her saying, well, in the past she ran around naked, and so, I'm not going to have respect for her because that's not exactly appropriate. Now, that was in the past. Now she's a mother, and that changes everything. So Prabhupada says, Naga Matrika Nyaya, the logic of naked mother, means similarly, even if the spiritual master in the past may have acted in certain ways, may have had characteristics, activities that were materialistic, now that person is guru, having come in contact with Krishna, the devotees, taken full shelter at the lotus feet of their guru. Now that person is totally different and cannot be judged based on their past life. In fact, sometimes even that language is used. In the past life. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also asked about Lord Chaitanya's past life, meaning before. What was he like before this, ecstatic transformation into being, by his estimation, pure devotee? At that point, he didn't recognize Lord Chaitanya as the Lord himself. He'd ask, what was his previous life, his previous ashram? But the spiritual master can no longer be judged based on superficial bodily concept of life, based on the logic of Matrika Nyaya. Just like you don't judge your mother for, as a child, running around naked. Now she's your mother. And that's the most significant thing within this material world. According to Manu in Samhita, it's more significant than the father. If you want some Shastra Praman, just let me know. So then how is the spiritual master judged? Not just, does he have a cool beard? Is he really tall? Does he have a deep voice? I remember one person telling me in Los Angeles, we used to have this Sangha with Russian devotees. We were preaching to a lot of Russians there. Made a lot of devotees. It was fantastic. But this one Mataji who was trying to get me involved in speaking at group, she was like, oh, you're very qualified because you have a nice low voice. The tone of a guru person should have a voice within this particular range. I was like, come on, which Shastra says that that's the qualification? But that's what some people want. We judge superficially. How should we really judge? That's described here in Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 3, text number 21. Mentioned in this purport. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigashu shreya uttamam shabde pare chanishnatam brahmanyupashamashaya. It says here that first of all, one must approach the spiritual master, prapadyeta, which literally means walking forward, though it's often translated as surrender. One must therefore approach the spiritual master, surrender to the spiritual master, and be jigashu shreya uttamam. First, if you want to even know who's the spiritual master, you got to be jigashu shreya uttamam, inquisitive about one's ultimate well-being or one's ultimate benefit. Shreya uttamam. What is really the best thing for me? Not Gurudev, who should I marry? Gurudev, what kind of car should I buy? Gurudev, who should I vote for? Jigashu Shreya Uttamam. We should inquire, What is my ultimate? What is the best thing for me? Then we might be able to see who is actually a spiritual master. And that's described in the rest of the verse. Shabde, pare, chanishna, tam, brahmanyupashamashrayam. Such a person knows the Shastra, Shabde, like they've heard the spiritual sound vibration from parampara and from the Lord. Shabde pare, they know the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And nishnatam, cha nishnatam, they can impart that understanding unto you. When they describe the absolute truth, their words fills you with realization, the nature of God, Krishna, the nature of the self being beyond the material body and the relationship between them. That's the guru. Brahmanyupashamashrayam. They are guru, heavy. That's what guru literally means in Sanskrit, by the way, heavy. Guru and lagu. Lagu means light. Right? No. What is the opposite? Brihad and lagu, big and small. Guru, what was the opposite of guru? I can't remember. Anyway, guru, they're heavy, Brahmanupashamashrayam, because of being fully sheltered in the Brahman. Brahmanya upashamashrayam. They've taken complete refuge in Brahman. They have nothing else but Krishna. So that's how we judge, not superficially, oh, he has glasses, or oh, he can't find his shoes. Now I have doubt in my spiritual master because he lost his shoes. Or one time I heard him pass gas. And so, now I have doubt. That's not the way to judge. And we should judge, but we judge based on this requisite described in Shastra, that the spiritual master knows the Supreme Lord and can impart that knowledge unto you. Right? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya. What is the first Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya? Brain fart. Jnaninas tattvadarshana. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. One who knows the truth, tattvadarshana, they've seen it and they can tell you. And even in that verse, again, Krishna is making clear that there's a prerequisite. The prerequisite is on our part. That's what we should be worried about. Not should the spiritual master be wearing these shoes or those shoes. We should worry about our requirement. We approach the spiritual master with seva. You have to render service, approach humbly and inquire. Then we can understand the guru. Those three requirements are there. Sevaya, you serve the spiritual master, and inquire submissively. Then we can understand who is guru. Not just based on superficial things like some popularity contest, who has the biggest digital footprint, or who has the biggest beard, who has the biggest bank account. No, we should judge the spiritual master based on what's described in the Shastra. And what's being described by Maharaj Rahugana here? He recognizes you're moving on the surface of the world to enlighten me. And so he asks, I'm seeking enlightenment from you. How can I advance in spiritual life? He doesn't first ask, how many disciples do you have? What's your count here? And he recognizes you're a person who has real knowledge and a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please enlighten me. So there you go. I mean, there's the basic science of spiritual master. I think most of us have heard all this stuff before. So then we pivot and make a little social commentary at risk of pushing buttons here. And I would argue that for our ISKCON to thrive, we need to do a lot more of this. We need to have many, many more gurus with fewer disciples, or with lots of disciples, but But putting the burden of guruship on such a small number of people is not ideal. And I say that with confidence because, as I mentioned yesterday, it is actually a recent resolution of the GBC, recognizing that, like in their exact words, that there are not enough gurus. You simply don't have enough. And I think I would argue, just for the record, I'm a big fan of the GBC. I've always been on their side for what it's worth. They have my full support, and the system by which we initiate new bhaktas into Guru Parampara, I think it's great. It's fantastic. But in their own words, their own admission, there's simply not enough gurus. And I think that the fault is not with how ISKCON is managed or how our modern spiritual masters are conducting themselves. I think the fault is with people who are new to bhakti and their expectations of what the guru is. That's kind of being described in this verse and purport. And that if we do look at the standard set in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we would see that it's very common for a person to have only a few disciples and to come from many different backgrounds and lifestyles and service, doing very different kinds of service for the Lord. If persons who are new to Krishna consciousness, who are coming along, were to recognize the definition of a spiritual master according to the Shastra, then perhaps they would approach people to inquire about being their student in a more diverse way, instead of only going for the small handful of established gurus in ISKCON. In other words, we should have a lot more people initiating devotees, becoming Diksha Guru. And I think that would be healthy for ISKCON in the long run. But it requires people recognizing, what is the real qualification of the spiritual masters, just how they're speaking about Krishna, whether or not they can teach a person about love of God and live according to their teaching, their achar and their prachar. But, just kind of by default, people tend to go for what works, especially in the Kali Yuga, because sometimes things don't work. And so we think it's safe to take initiation from a guru who already has 10 or 20,000 disciples. Then, this person must be doing all right. And that's a good consideration, sure. But we see that the example in the Shastra, time and time again, is that a guru might just have a few disciples. They might come from very different backgrounds. And as the case of Jad Bharat, you just don't even know what you can expect about their bodily situation. But if they speak authoritatively, representing parampara, and impart knowledge of Krishna, and inspire devotional service to Krishna, then they're qualified to be guru. And so that's the example set in the Shastra, and that's the prerogative that's been explicitly stated by our GBC, the governing body commissioners of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That we should do our part to help up-and-coming Vaishnavas to recognize what is the real definition of a spiritual master, and that they should be able to see that in places. And in this way, hopefully we can increase the number of gurus and make a strong spiritual support for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and perhaps even millions of people all over the world. Hare Krishna. I think I'll just finish there. I've made enough points. And I wonder if any devotees who are listening have any comments or even any questions. if you're feeling risky. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And if not, then I will share something, if I can find it. Where is that part? Okay, I guess I made my point very clear. Or everybody disagrees and they're too humble to say so. All right, then let's hear something more about the symptom and the requirements of the spiritual master, so we can fully understand. This is coming from my favorite part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Adi Lila, chapter 7. In that Adi Lila chapter 7, we hear about how Lord Chaitanya is exhibiting these ecstatic symptoms of love of God, singing and dancing and having a wonderful time. And then these Mayavadi sannyasis are like, wait, that's not appropriate. They're judging again superficially that a sannyasi is supposed to sit down and read Vedanta and be bored. But here you are, you're dancing with worldly people. That doesn't make any sense. And Lord Chaitanya, he enlightens them. He said, I can't help it. My spiritual master told me that I'm a fool. Murka tumi tomar nahi ke Vedanta adhikar Krishna mantra japa sada. Hey, Krishna mantra japa sada. Anyway, he said that I'm just a fool and I should simply chant Hare Krishna. Can't do anything else. And he said, just by doing that, I feel this ecstasy all the time and I can't help singing and dancing. And in trying to explain why the Lord has such incredible ecstasy, he says that it's not me. It's just that when the spiritual master gave me this mantra, I just become bewildered by it. I thought that I've lost my mind. But my spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya, speaking to the sannyasis, he said, my spiritual master explained that actually this is very good that you experience love of God by chanting. And in that purport, which I'll find in just a second, Prabhupada says that this is all the spiritual master wants. When a disciple very perfectly makes progress in spiritual life, this gladdens the spiritual master, who then also smiles in ecstasy, thinking, how successful my disciple has become. He feels so glad that he smiles as he enjoys the progress of the disciple, just as a smiling parent enjoys the activities of a child who's trying to stand up or crawl perfectly. Hold on, there's a really great purport here, where Prabhupada says, why can't I find it now? Hold on, wait with me for a second. He says that, here we go. When Srila Prabhupada describes what is actually going on with the spiritual master and how one becomes a spiritual master, it's all centered around the ecstatic chanting of the Lord's holy names. Prabhupada says in the purport to, Krishna Nama Mahamantra Etasvabhava Ye Japatare Krishna Upajaya Bhava. It is the nature of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that anyone who chants it immediately develops his loving ecstasy for Krishna. What Chaitanya was saying to Prakashananda Sarasvati and all these Mayavadi sannyasis, that the reason I'm dancing and chanting in ecstasy is not because of me, it's because my spiritual master said that I'm a fool and I can't do anything else except chant Hare Krishna. This is how he was initiated into the chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You're just a fool. What can you do? What are you capable of? It's Kali Yuga. You can hardly stop straight. But you just chant Hare Krishna and it'll all work out. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, it's just the nature of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that anyone who chants it immediately experiences ecstatic love of God. Prabhupada comments in this purport, a sincere student orally receives the holy name from the spiritual master. And after being initiated, he follows the regulative principles given by the spiritual master. When the holy name is properly served in this way, automatically, the spiritual nature of the holy name spreads. In other words, the devotee becomes qualified in offenselessly chanting the holy name. When one is completely fit to chant the holy name in this way, he is eligible to make disciples all over the world, and he actually becomes Jagat Guru. Then the entire world, under his influence, begins to chant the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Thus, all the disciples of such a spiritual master increase in attachment to Krishna, and therefore he sometimes cries, sometimes laughs, sometimes dances, and sometimes chants. These symptoms are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna consciousness movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in this ecstatic fashion. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, actually this is not due to practice, for without extra endeavor, these symptoms become manifest in anyone who sincerely chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is the qualification of the spiritual master, that they chant and dance in ecstasy. When someone is completely fit to chant the holy name in this way, he is eligible to make disciples all over the world, and he actually becomes Jagat Guru. So we're thinking about what requirements are there in the Guru. What should I be looking for to have faith in the spiritual master? Prabhupada says, chanting and dancing in ecstasy. Then they're fit to become Jagat Guru, to make disciples all over the world. When they're offenselessly chanting in ecstasy. Bhava. Ye japatarishne upajaya bhava. And one who receives the holy name from a person, qualified guru who's chanting in ecstasy, then they'll also chant in ecstasy. And in this way, it increases all over the world. So the spiritual science of the guru is really amazing. It's really amazing. And what should be considered is not superficial body considerations, but does that person speak on behalf of Krishna, inspire love of Godhead, chant offenselessly in ecstasy? Such a person should be spiritual master. We should inquire from them, serve them, and be submissive. Then we can actually understand God and our relationship with the Lord. All right. Hare Krishna. Thanks for listening. Thank you for participating. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.
What, that's it? You got nothing more?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm spent. I've spent all of my spiritual energy. Now I'm deficit. But I'd love to hear your comments, Prabhu, about who is a qualified spiritual master, if you would like.
I don't have a lot of comments other than to express my appreciation for a very nice class. You covered the subject matter very thoroughly. There's not a lot more. Well, actually, you could go into endless details. Prabhupada has provided us with so much information. There's lots of
You okay, Prabhu? Still there? Maybe our connection is cutting out because I can't hear you. Nope. Lost him. Or maybe you lost me. I don't know. Anticlimactic, to say the least. Okay. Hare Krishna. Well, thank you for commenting, Prabhu. Thank you for your support. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Haribo.